The Middle East is once again on the brink of explosion. Israel, a small but fiercely determined nation, has launched an unprecedented direct assault on Iran, targeting nuclear facilities, military command centers, and vital oil infrastructure. Iran has fired back with hundreds of missiles and drones. But the question is, will it be enough to shift the balance? In today's video, we dive into White Heavy Checkmark. Why is Israel going all in? White Heavy Checkmark. What role does President Trump play in this conflict? White Heavy Checkmark. And could this confrontation spark a full-scale regional war? Or worse, I don't look away. Because what you're about to see might be a turning point for the entire world. Over the past week, smoke and fire have filled the skies over Tehran and Tel Aviv as Israel and Iran engage in an unprecedented direct confrontation. Since June 13th, Israel has launched airstrikes targeting Iran's nuclear facilities, military infrastructure, and energy sectors. In response, Tehran has fired waves of ballistic missiles aimed at both military and civilian targets inside Israel. This isn't just a military clash, it's a geopolitical chess match with far-reaching implications. Israel appears to be going all in, risking a full-blown regional war across the Middle East. The Iran-Israel conflict is deeply rooted in history. For more than 3 decades, Iran has viewed Israel as a mortal enemy. Iranian leaders have repeatedly called for Israel to be wiped off the map. On the other side, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has, since his early days in politics, considered Iran's nuclear ambitions an existential threat to his nation. Netanyahu's obsession with Iran isn't limited to its nuclear program. It also stems from Iran's backing of proxy forces, Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the Houthis in Yemen, forming what many call a Shiite crescent encircling Israel. The conflict escalated dramatically on June 13th, when Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a coordinated campaign targeting Iran's nuclear enrichment sites, ballistic missile factories, and top military leadership. Targets included the Natanz and Fordow uranium enrichment facilities, the Iranian Ministry of Defense headquarters, and oil facilities south of Tehran. Iran responded with 2 major ballistic missile salvos, striking Israeli military bases and intelligence centers, inflicting damage in Tel Aviv and Haifa. As of June 20th, more than 600 people in Iran and 24 in Israel have been reported killed. According to the Israeli military, Iran has launched over 400 ballistic missiles and around 1,000 drones since hostilities began. More than 20 Iranian missiles have hit towns across Israel, causing significant casualties and damage. What's particularly striking is Israel's departure from its previous containment strategy, typically limited to covert assassinations or pinpoint strikes on Iranian proxies in Syria and Lebanon. This time, Israel has embraced a new military doctrine: direct, large-scale attacks on Iranian soil. Experts believe this marks a turning point in Israel's strategy, shifting from deterrence to full-scale confrontation. The question remains, why has Israel decided to go all in now? Iran's nuclear program has long been at the center of Israel's national security concerns. According to the Institute for the Study of War, ISW, Israeli intelligence believes Tehran is closer than ever to acquiring a nuclear weapon, with key facilities like Natanz and Fordow reportedly capable of enriching uranium to weapons-grade levels. While international nuclear experts, including the Director General of the IAEA, have cautioned that Israel's airstrikes are unlikely to completely dismantle Iran's nuclear infrastructure, especially deeply buried sites like Fordow, Israel is nonetheless pressing forward in an effort to delay Tehran's progress. On June 17th, Reuven Azar, Israel's ambassador to India, declared that Israel would continue to do whatever is necessary to undermine Iran's nuclear ambitions. Afshin Ostavar, an Iran military expert at the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, California, noted that recent Israeli strikes on Mashhad and other targets prove Israel can hit almost any location inside Iran, sending a clear message: no place is safe as long as Tehran pursues a nuclear weapon. However, Israel's decision is not solely driven by fears of a nuclear Iran. It also comes in the wake of the collapse of U.S.-Iran nuclear talks in Oman this June. With diplomacy effectively off the table, Israel appears to have concluded that it must act now, before Iran crosses the so-called nuclear threshold, the point at which it could quickly assemble a nuclear bomb. Tal Inbar, a defense analyst with the Missile Defense Advocacy Alliance in Virginia, summed up the sense of urgency. Israel cannot afford to wait. With each passing day, Iran moves closer to a nuclear weapon. One of the key factors behind Israel's bold decision to go all in against Iran is the significant weakening of Tehran's proxy network. Over the past 20 months, Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon, Iran's two most vital regional arms, have suffered heavy losses due to sustained Israeli military operations. The 2024 war in Gaza and the concurrent conflict along the Lebanese border severely degraded the operational capabilities of both groups, drastically limiting Iran's ability to retaliate through its traditional proxies. Meanwhile, another Iranian proxy, the Houthis in Yemen, has been stretched thin as U.S.-led coalition forces have launched repeated strikes against Houthi positions in the Red Sea. This has effectively stripped Iran of one of its key regional shields, forcing Tehran to rely more heavily on its own forces, particularly the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, to mount a response. However, Iran's missile response has so far yielded limited impact. Since June 13th, Iran has launched two major salvos totaling around 100 ballistic missiles. The vast majority were intercepted by Israeli and U.S. missile defense systems, including the THAAD system, highlighting Tehran's difficulty in inflicting serious damage. Energy and regional affairs analyst Anis Al-Haji from Energy Outlook Advisors explains. The weakening of Iran's proxy forces has created a rare window of opportunity for Israel to strike directly at Iran without facing major retaliation on multiple fronts. This strategic shift helps explain why Israel is willing to risk an all-out confrontation. The once formidable pressure from Iran's proxy network no longer poses the same threat to Tel Aviv as it once did. The return of President Donald Trump to the White House this January played a crucial role in shaping Israel's decision-making. Trump, who famously withdrew the U.S. from the Iran nuclear deal, JCPOA, in 2018 and enforced a maximum pressure campaign against Tehran, is widely viewed in Israel as a dependable ally. While he has publicly stated that the U.S. is not involved in Israel's airstrikes against Iran, reports from USNI News indicate that the U.S. THAAD missile defense system has been used to help intercept Iranian missiles. Evidence of close coordination between the two nations. Senator Lindsey Graham, a staunch Trump ally, has openly called on the president to fully support Israel, even advocating the use of American military power to end Iran's nuclear program. While Trump has not made any public commitment to direct military engagement, he has repeatedly warned that any attack on the U.S. or its allies would be met with overwhelming force. Tehran is well aware that striking Israel could trigger U.S. involvement, a scenario Iran is ill-equipped to handle. Vivek Thar, an analyst at the Commonwealth Bank of Australia, explains. Trump's tacit support, combined with the presence of overwhelming U.S. military power in the Middle East, has created a shield of confidence for Israel, encouraging it to act more aggressively than ever before. This backing helps explain why Israel has expanded the scope of its campaign against Iran, ignoring calls for restraint from key European allies like the UK and France. Beyond international dynamics, domestic political pressure has also played a critical role in Israel's decision-making. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who faces ongoing corruption investigations and widespread criticism over his handling of the Gaza conflict, is in dire need of a military success to bolster his political standing and reinforce his image as a strong, decisive leader. According to the New York Times, the strikes against Iran are seen as a calculated effort by Netanyahu to divert public attention from internal scandals and reposition himself as the guardian of national security, a leader who will not back down from existential threats. While the Gaza war significantly weakened Hamas, it also inflicted a severe humanitarian toll and left Israel diplomatically isolated. By shifting focus to Iran's nuclear program, Netanyahu seeks to restore Israel's image as the region's security shield rather than an aggressor. Jamal Abdi, president of the National Iranian American Council, NIAC, commented, Prime Minister Netanyahu is gambling big, using the conflict with Iran to consolidate power at home and rally support from key international allies, especially the United States. However, Abdi warned that this strategy could backfire if the conflict drags on, inflicting heavy losses and fueling broader regional instability. Observers note that Netanyahu's all-in decision is already producing far-reaching consequences. Economically, Israeli strikes on Iran's oil infrastructure, particularly Karg Island, the main export hub for Iranian crude, have raised alarm about global energy supply. According to the New York Times, Brent crude prices spiked to $73 per barrel on June 18th, and experts warn that if the conflict continues, prices could soar past $100 or even $150 per barrel, triggering global inflation and pushing oil-dependent economies such as China, India, and much of the EU toward recession. Geopolitically, Israel's attacks have triggered divisions across the international community. Jordan, Qatar, and France have condemned the strikes, calling them a threat to regional peace. China, Iran's largest oil customer, has voiced deep concern and urged Israel to cease military action. Russia has warned the U.S. against involvement, citing the danger of uncontrollable escalation. Still, Israel's Western allies, particularly the United States, have maintained quiet support. While the UK and EU have called for restraint, they have also affirmed Israel's right to self-defense. This leaves Iran in a difficult position. A strong retaliation risks triggering a direct confrontation with the U.S. Israel alliance, but holding back could be seen as weakness, damaging Tehran's credibility across the region. That Israel's decision to go all in against Iran is a bold geopolitical gamble, driven by nuclear anxiety, the decline of Iranian proxies, American backing, and Netanyahu's domestic political pressures. But it's a high-stakes chess match. Even if Israel succeeds in slowing Iran's nuclear ambitions and projecting strength, a prolonged conflict could result in major economic fallout, mounting casualties, and potentially spiral the Middle East into a full-scale regional war. Ellen Wald, senior fellow at the Atlantic Council, put it bluntly, Israel is sending a clear message that it will do whatever it takes to stop Iran. But the cost of that strategy may far exceed what Tel Aviv has bargained for. As the world watches with bated breath, one question looms large. Will Israel win this strategic gamble, or will it accidentally ignite the region's next powder keg? Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more videos.